Hi, and welcome to episode 5 of Under the Volcano with me, Nigel Simmons.
And me, Ian Wallace.
Mr. Wallace, how are you? Coming up in this week's show, we have a world of firsts in which we delve into a raft of bad choices surrounding 1970s motoring with my first car, my first motorbike, and the first time I threw up. And we might even touch on my first girlfriend if we have time. And of course, also if we have time, we will be finally telling the story of Big George fighting his way up the hill against the pikeys to get his balls blown off with a shotgun. But first. Ian, what have you been up to, boy?
Well,
okay, fascinating.
yes, isn't it?
What have I been doing this week?
Yeah, what have you been doing?
Thank you. I thought you'd never ask.
Yeah,
well, I've actually been reading a book, kind of looking at a book, really.
At
more than reading it. It's a very big book. It's called In Deep, the Collected Surf Writings by Mr. Matt George. And there it is. You can just see it. It's a fascinating. I've just been dipping in, man. Matt George is, I think, a preeminent surf writer. Used to work for some of the biggest magazines like Surfer Magazine and stuff, and he's just sort of and obviously compiled a collection of his work. And if you're into surfing, man, it's got a great forward by Kelly Slater, of course, is the world champion and a frequent visitor to Bali. It's good work, and I love the first. I just kind of got into the first story, which is about the Australian girl who had her arm bitten off by a shark.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's one thing that's put me off surfing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially in Australia, I just don't get it. I've got mates that do it, and then they said, "Oh yeah, I was in the water the other day, mate, and I saw a fin."
Yeah.
I'm like, well, what the fucking hell?
Get the fuck out of there.
Exactly. So, but she was just surfing out there. I think her name was Bethany, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she was surfing out there with her family, if I'm not wrong. This big white came along, or it could have been a tiger shark, and just relieved her of her arm at the shoulder.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah. So it's an extraordinary account of how that all went down, and then how they got her to hospital eventually.
She survived?
Yes, she did. Yeah, she
Wow.
they saved her life, and she couldn't wait to get back in the water.
Yeah.
That's the other thing that gets me about surfers is they're just kind of obsessed with it, aren't they?
Yeah, but it's like any other passion. It's like motorcyclists,
Motorcycling. Yeah. Anyway, if you want to check out In Deep by Matt George, that is available anywhere on Amazon, and we will, take a quick look at any books that you guys want to send us. So if you've written a book and you want to send it to Under the Volcano, please do. We'll take a look at it and give it a plug because we love writers. Being a writer myself,
there you go.
I get it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is the point at which you're supposed to say, "Oh, I read your book, Nigel. What a great piece of work."
Well, I did read the book, Nigel, and it was fascinating. That was wholly interesting. That was really, what's the word? Engaging. No, seriously it was. Yeah. Eating the Wind.
Eating the Wind, yeah.
By Nigel Simmons.
By Nigel Simmons, yeah. Also available on Amazon.
Yeah. No, seriously, good read.
Or directly from the author. Which is the best way to do it.
Yeah, go around his house.
Yeah, no, I get more money that way. Amazon keeps a bunch otherwise. But so in other printed work, of course, we've got this week from the
Sano Weekly.
And Fleety's just popped that in. Thank you so much. The Sano Weekly. Shock horror.
Yeah.
Shock horror. I have news. There is no Sanor Weekly this week.
What's going on?
I don't know what's going on. It's just usually there at my regular bar in Sanor, delivered on a Wednesday. But this week, croissant, nothing. Yeah, just wasn't there. So I don't know. I'm a bit concerned.
Yeah.
About the situation in the newsroom at Sunday Weekly, which is obviously quite an extensive operation.
Exactly.
I'll have hundreds of desks with people with sort of green visors,
sheepskin hats,
sheepskin
coats,
cameras and paper and ink and stuff. Yeah, but
pencils
anyway,
behind their ears.
yeah. So maybe they're on strike. I don't know what's going on. It could be because we've had holidays.
Could be.
Yeah, this week we've had what they've all come together. We've had Chinese New Year.
Yep.
We've had the elections, of course, and then
we had a day off after that.
There was a day off. I think that was for Mohammed's birthday.
Was it?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. God bless him.
Yeah.
And
peace be upon him.
Peace be upon him. Yeah. So that could be. I'm hoping that's the only reason that the Sun or Weekly's not come out this week. Because
it's either that or they run out of staples.
Maybe that's it. Island Brewing, send more staples.
That's right. Yeah.
To the Sun or Weekly because they've run out. Anyway, we hope they're okay. We hope you're all okay there at the Sun or Weekly because we miss you, man.
Big up the Sun or Weekly.
So that leads us into our feedback section. Feedback. So feedback is where we just look at your comments. Thank you for your comments on YouTube.
Yes, thank you.
On our channel there. We've got one from Mr. Mark Parrott, 6254, who asks, is Ian a real motorcyclist or is it a bit of an act?
Well, I think it's probably an act. But
you'll have to justify yourself.
Yeah.
Because you do wear kind of motorcycle T-shirts. You talk about motorbikes.
Yeah,
you know, and you position yourself as a sort of a sheep farming motorcyclist.
That's right.
So you need to defend yourself against this interloper, Mr. Mark Parrott.
Yes, Mark Parrott. Who is he? So I've had bikes since I was 10 years old.
Oh yeah.
And I've had bikes.
I mean, like motorbikes since you were 10?
Motorbikes. Yeah.
Right. Well, then it's 10 years old.
10 years old. 10 years old. I had a BSA Bantams. We used to buy
At 10 years old.
£10. And
What?
you used to chop the rear mudguard off, fit a knobbly tyre, and you had a scrambler.
Right.
And then fast forward to when I never had a moped.
No, wait. So you're 10 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Are you living on a sort of farm or something, or just?
I lived in Norwich.
Right, in Norwich. Yeah, you lived in Norwich. But then how do you legally ride a
We don't. You roll them on fields. And
right, that's what I'm saying. How would that work?
I was in the Scouts.
Right.
And our Scout leader he ran something more like a paramilitary organisation.
Okay.
Which included motorbikes and guns.
Really?
Yeah.
Good Lord, a bit like America.
It's similar, but in East Runton.
There are sort of similarities I've always thought between, the cowboy fucking east of England, do you know, out there in the wild, with sort of Texas.
I think it's almost rednecks.
No, yeah, rednecks.
Yeah.
It's basically a redneck because a lot of my friends and family, step family, out that way, in the web-fingered world of sort of Wisbech area, they all they're all into motorbikes, and a lot of them are into like big American cars and trucks.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure that they love Trump as well, for whatever reason.
Yes, yeah, quite possibly.
Anyway,
none of my friends love Trump. All right.
Okay, you sure?
Yeah.
I don't believe you.
I'm fucking pumped.
No, they just haven't told you yet.
Well, quite possibly.
But the first motorcycle. So
yeah,
I mean, £10 to BSA Bantam.
Yeah, ex-GPO.
Okay, so that would be a British bike.
Yep.
That's how many cc's would that
125.
be? A 125 single cylinder motorcycle made in Sheffield or something.
No, Birmingham.
In Birmingham.
Small arms.
Ah, right, Birmingham.
BSA.
Of course, BSA. It's the boys from the
3 stacked rifles.
3 stacked rifles, right? They did all the arms and stuff, yeah. Peaky Blinders and all that.
I don't know. I haven't got that haircut.
Yeah, no, you haven't. But you got the cap. But the Peaky Blinders. There was the Birmingham Small Arms Company. That's right. Yeah. So did they make motorcycles first and then made ammunitions? No, or munition.
Guns and shit first, and then motorbikes. I guess.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
But so I had those until I refused to have a moped. At 16, I stuck to my push bike.
Okay.
And then at 17, had a 350 matchless with a sidecar.
A matchless.
Yeah.
And what is that? Also BSA?
No, it's my matchless.
Mattresses are like also a brand of
It's a brand. It's
English motorcycle.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can tell that I've got a very
real-
deep knowledge
Yes,
of motorcycling here. So, and you're going to be amused by my first choices. So this would be like a British, BSA 125 single cylinder.
That was in the old days.
Bantams,
That
the
was
olden days when you were a kid. And then the first time they'd give you a license at 17. Didn't you have the 16-year, when you were 16 years old, you get the L plates, couldn't you?
Yeah, but you had to ride a fucking moped.
Okay, so you refused the moped part. You skipped the moped
Mark
part.
Parrott rode a moped.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Oh, you know Mark Parrott, and he
I
rode
do.
a moped.
Yeah.
Oh dear, Mark.
Yeah.
Was it a Suzuki Fizzy?
No,
Maybe?
it was a Honda SS50.
Oh dear.
Yeah,
Honda SS50. Yeah.
So he prostituted himself to the Japanese motorcycle industry.
Well, he's a man after my own heart as well. So you've gone from you've skipped, you stuck to the push bike and you've skipped that and you've gone straight to no L
17.
plates.
No, I had to. No, I had to have L plates.
Okay.
At 17,
Right.
You could ride a bike as big as you wanted.
Yeah.
As long as it had a sidecar.
Yeah.
You
I
could fit
see.
L plates.
Oh, right.
And I just had a frame with a box on it.
Right. And the mattress was what engine size was that then?
350.
A 350
And then I put a
single cylinder or twin?
Yeah, for single. And then I put
cylinder.
a 500 AJS engine into it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that legal?
Yeah.
Oh, that was legal to
Yeah.
do back then, yeah.
And then had Triumphs and other stuff. And bought a new Motor Guzzi in 1980.
New Motor Guzzi.
Yeah.
Oh, from
Motor Guzzi, California, Italian.
Italian, yeah.
Oh,
I think
Italian.
we've got some pictures of some of these motorcycles. We're going to be popping them in if we haven't done already. But the Motor Guzzi is interesting. I can't remember that big tourer because it was again a popular. I mean, there was a massive influx, a wave of motorcycles into England. After BSA and all the British stuff went down.
Demise of the British bike industry. Yeah.
So suddenly in England in the 70s, you could buy extremely fast motorcycles.
Absolutely.
I mean, they were just mad, you know.
Yeah.
So do you want to hear about my...
I think you should share, because I have an inkling.
my motorcycling history. So I inherited my first bike was a moped. Mm-hmm. At 16 with L plates, and I inherited it from my stepsister.
Right.
Sadly, no more. Mm-hmm. And it was a Puch Maxi, and we got a
How lovely.
great picture of it here. You can see it's the pinnacle of Italian motoring. Was it Italian?
No, it's Austrian.
Austrian, like Skoda or something. You know. Anyway, got me to school and back. It was embarrassing.
I hope it had a basket on it.
I removed the basket because it looked better, you know. Yeah. But it was I guess it was a 49cc or something. Yeah, and it did
with pedals.
It did have pedals. Yes.
Yeah. Why didn't you just stick to a fucking push bike?
Yeah. Well, it went faster than push bike. It used to do like up to sometimes with the wind behind you.
Yeah.
It would do 28 miles an hour.
Without the basket to weigh you down.
28 miles an hour, which for our American friends out there would be about whatever that is, 5/8 of a mile, so 40 kilometers an hour.
Right.
Possibly 42.
Yeah.
And
wow.
Yeah, it used to get me to school and back.
Yeah.
You know. It was embarrassing, I have to say. And as soon as I turned...
I can imagine you were ostracised to a degree.
Well, I mean, it just got me about, you know. So I was quite happy with it. Do you know what I mean? It got me out of the house and I could...
Fucking easily pleased.
Yeah, well, and then I was only 16, man.
Yeah.
And then like a bit like Mark Parrott, yeah.
Yeah.
So then after that, my next bike was an A100 Suzuki.
Ooh.
Yeah, so that's a 100cc.
Yes, steady on.
Yes, steady on. No pedals this time.
No, good.
But wasn't a lot faster.
No.
I mean, it used to do maybe, we get up to sort of, you know, maybe we went behind you, sort of 50 miles an hour or something.
Yeah.
Maybe 55.
Yeah.
And that was all right. After that, what did I do? I think after that, I just thought, fuck this, and I got a car.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. You know, and then my motorcycling sort of history sort of began after, you know,
right,
when I could actually appreciate motorbikes.
Sure.
But first, I mean, the English winter, man, we live in Bali, the English winter is
it's fucking dire.
February, man.
Yeah.
Going to work on your bike.
Yeah, which I did. You know, I rode my bikes. In fact, I rode the Guzzi for 7 years through every year. But used to have to strip it down every Saturday to clean it and make sure the bloody thing didn't rot. So,
Amazing.
yeah.
And quite complicated, I imagine.
Yeah, fairly.
Well, this is fascinating.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Hinton.
Henton. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what about your first car then?
First car was a Land Rover.
A Land Rover.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
quite street cred,
Yeah,
isn't it? Because you're a
19
farmer.
No, I wasn't a farmer then. I was
Oh.
a council house tenant.
Oh, right.
No, a council flat tenant.
Oh, council flat tenant, yeah.
In Norwich.
Hmm.
And so I bought a 1954 Land Rover
Okay, nice.
for 500 quid.
Nice.
And then cut it all to bits, just mutilated it and made it into a lovely off-roader.
I think we've got a picture of it here.
Mm.
It looks pretty cool, I have to say.
It was. It was great. I went everywhere in it.
How was the gear shift and shit? That was like, that's been fucking...
Yeah, it's a bit like stirring porridge.
Yeah, well,
Yeah. That's right.
quite, I mean...
It's only 4-speed box, so it wasn't many to find.
No, but they're a very sturdy car, aren't they?
Yeah. It's not a car,
Not a car,
it's a
sorry.
Land Rover.
Excuse me, it's a van, is
Or
it?
a fucking Jeep.
What is it then?
Is it Land Rover?
Oh, it's a Land Rover, yes.
You Philistine.
Yeah, Land Rover, BSA, matches, Land Rover. It's all very British, isn't it?
Isn't it?
Yeah. Mine was all very,
European.
European
and
or
Oriental.
Foreign, yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So I think my first car was I have a story about this because, I mean, you got a dad. I imagine even you have had a father.
Even me.
Even you. So when it comes to those choices in your sort of not adolescence, but when you're growing up, there are certain kind of markers, aren't there, in your life, and one of them would be, for instance, going to fit your first suit or.
That never happened with me.
Buy your first pair of shoes or something that, your first game of football or something with your dad, So one of my first things to do was to buy a car,
Okay.
So I was, I think it must have been, 18.
What, with your dad?
17, 18, yeah. So after I'd got over the whole Push Maxi bullshit and A1 London, I thought, fuck,
saw the
this, I
light.
need to actually get a car.
Yeah.
It was cars in England, man, back then. Let me say, it was a whole fucking culture of stuff. So men, being the men, would know about the cars, right? And there'd be every fucker who's older than you telling you about the cars. What's the good car? What's the bad car? How you fix the car? Twin carbs, All I was interested in is what colour it was, frankly,
Sure.
But so I thought there was no way I could actually go out and buy a car on my own without my dad being involved, because he was a sort of mechanic as well, airframe fitter in the Air Force, and he so we would need to be involved in this sort of decision for me. So I gladly asked him to help me in this quest. And I remember going out, there was it would have been over a period of a week, I guess, when me and my dad, Derek, went out looking at my first car to buy. Yeah. So, of course, he had his opinions about things, being a motorist himself and a motorcyclist, with a history of all that. So we scoured, of course, the local newspapers and stuff, the classifieds, and we looked at what was kind of available, and we ticked and circled some boxes and stuff like that, And we ended up sort of getting down to a selection of 3 or 4, could go and look at this one or that one.
Yeah.
It's the right sort of price, and the right sort of thing. Okay, could be nice, little sporty or not sporty, So we'd had all this discussion, which I thoroughly enjoyed.
Yeah, that's good.
With the old man, and he said, right, and it'd usually be on a Saturday. He said, right, we're going to go out and look for a car for you. We've got a list, So we go out, and the first one we went to look at was at a little garage. And it was a little garage with a few cars there with a forecourt, And the first one was this Fiat 500.
Yeah.
I mean, being an ignorant sort of young kid, I'd never heard of a Fiat 500, and I didn't really know what to expect. But my older brother told me, Fiat 500, yeah, cool, because there's somehow in the annals of motoring history, the Fiat 500 still holds a place.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, but when you actually look at it, Fiat, which is an Italian,
it doesn't
pretty low rent brand.
Yeah.
And 500 meant 500 cc's.
Yeah, it doesn't exactly get your heart
So it's
rate.
500 cc's. it's a car.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a car. It's a 500cc car.
Yeah.
I didn't know this. So when we pulled up at the garage, and there it sat, this tiny little box.
I can imagine the wave of disappointment.
I was like,
swept over you.
I was like, fuck, I'm not going to fucking drive that. I could barely get in it. Anyway, so we got in it, me and my dad. This Fiat 500, it's tiny, little, smaller than a fucking Mini, you know. Which
Yeah.
And he, you know, he goes and he's driving it because I haven't got my license yet, and he's thrashing it up the road and the fens like that. And you really never know. It's 500 cc's. It's nothing, you know. I mean, it's impossible to make a car with 500 cc's anymore. You know, I just don't believe it's, you know, possible. But thrashing up the road, and I'm thinking, this is just like, I can't pick up my girlfriend in this, you know.
No.
So we got back. He says, "What do you think?" You know, and I was like, "Well, you know." We got home, and then my stepmother was like, "How was it?" You know, the Fiat 500 and all that. And I was quiet. And my dad said, "Yeah." He said, "You had to push it a bit, you know." So we didn't go down that route.
No.
So the next Saturday we went off to see another one we'd circled in the Wisbech Standard, and to see it was another Italian car. It was an Alfa Sud.
Oh,
Yeah, there's probably a picture of it here. Now they were a popular car, first car, because they were quite quick.
yeah, and a bit exotic
They were a bit exotic,
and fucking unreliable.
and they also rusted.
Yeah, they're dreadful.
They just rusted to fuck. So after about 8 months, the thing would just start to rust in the British winter. You know, it would literally after 8 months, start to rust. You know, so you can imagine a sort of an 8-year-old or 10-year-old Alfa Sud, and I think they were like a 1500 or a 1600.
Yeah,
So they could go. I mean, you know, and they had one of those gearboxes, which like you're looking for the gear, you know, fucking somewhere over there. But it was a sort of sporty feel, and a bit was it not really a hatchback, but it was a sort of, you know, but it could go, and it had these sort of seats that the Italians had designed, and they were usually covered with some sort of furry shit and whatever.
Right.
Anyway, I got there, and there was this purple Alfa Sud.
Right.
And we got in it, and sure enough, it had the grey furry kind of seat covers and shit on it, and it was rusted to fuck. I noticed first thing, and my dad got in it. This is, you know, it's quite extraordinary that I never actually got to drive any of these cars.
No,
because he loved it, right?
Yeah,
so he'd get in this. Oh, right, okay. He got in this 1600 Alfa Sud or 1200, whatever it was. I think 1600 cc, and he again, we went up there. He thrashed the fuck out of it. And he was like, it's a big smile on his face, you know, because it was quite sporty.
Yeah.
And a nice exhaust tone, you know, as a result of the thing they'd bolted on the back.
Yeah.
Just give it that. And blah, 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 blah. You know, it's very Italian. Excuse me. And I just sat there thinking, well, this just looks like, you know, a fucking rust bucket. Anyway, we got back home and saw stepmum, and she said, "How'd it go today, you know, with the Alfa Sud?" And I was quiet again. And my dad said, "Oh, perfect first car," he said.
Right.
Absolutely perfect first car. Absolutely marvellous. And I was like, quiet again. So that didn't work. So the third weekend, we'd circled out another one. It was a Ford Escort.
Right.
And it was
nice and safe.
It was 1100
Yeah.
cc's. It was bright orange.
Right.
But inside was clean.
Uh-huh.
Had a very workable. It didn't have any rust.
No.
You know. And we got down there, and it was some council house bloke. You know, had this thing outside, and we got in. My dad got in again. You know, to drive the car.
Thrash the arse off it.
Thrashed the arse for a bit. You know. And I looked around the car. Thought, well, it looks pretty clean.
Yeah.
And it looks quite reliable. This looks like it's orange. Didn't really like the orange colour. Here's a clip. Here's a picture of the car, by the way, there. And, you know, it was very orange. I mean, I'm not talking about muted orange. I'm talking about...
fucking burnt orange.
Not even burnt. No, this
really?
was like bright orange.
Right,
Some sort of Pantone colour that, you know, just shouldn't be allowed in any print or in any kind of video or whatever. But they made these cars for some reason in these garish colours.
Right.
So the only thing wrong with it, as far as I'm concerned, was the fact it was completely orange. But anyway, it was 500 quid.
Yeah.
And my dad looked at me, and I wasn't silent. So I said, "This is the one, Dad." So I bought the Ford Escort 1100, and for 500 quid. I remember my dad pulled out his checkbook. You know, it's council house, council flat, council house, bloke. You know, instantly suspicious.
Of course.
My dad was working for the Prudential or something, but he pulled out his checkbook. He said, right, I'll buy it. He pulled out his checkbook. And they're going, I ain't taking a check. I ain't taking a check.
That's
I
the
don't
work
know
of the
who
devil.
you are. And he's like, it's a fucking banker's check. My God, this is my ID. This is a fucking banker's check. You know, it's like, come on, man. It's you know. So eventually he got talked down from the edge and he took the check.
Right.
And we drove off in the car. He drove it, of course, my dad.
Excellent.
And,
But weren't we lucky when we were, you know, when we were starting out driving cars or bikes or whatever, the insurance was affordable.
yeah.
And now, I mean, just insurance is mad. Mad.
I can't remember what my insurance was, but I remember it not being particularly cheap. I mean, in comparison to 500 quid for the car, I think the insurance was sort of, you know, 100 quid or something.
Yeah.
And then the
So,
road
I
tax was
suppose-
like 40 quid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or 25 quid, 40 quid or something like that. So, but I do remember the first time I went to the petrol station, because I'm still a student, so I haven't got any money.
Yeah.
You know? So I've got a new car, great, I'm going to go out, you know. And I look at the fuel gauge and it's on empty. And I'm like, oh, fuck. So I go to the petrol station and I've got fuck all money, you know. So I put in £5
Yeah.
of for fuel. And I looked at it and the needle barely moved. And I thought, I'm fucked. I need to get a job. Yeah, but that car saw some action, front and back seats, I have to say. And I have
Good man yourself.
fond memories of you girls. You know who you are if you're watching. They're not watching, probably dead by now, but you know.
Yeah.
Oh, the front and the back seat, yeah. I drove that car down to Harlow
Blimey.
and college and stuff, and I was the only bloke with a car.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, that's my
Yes,
kind of
yeah.
first car story.
Yeah.
I hope you've enjoyed that.
Yeah. No, it was good. It was interesting. It's interesting. So what about minis? Did you have a mini?
Minis were a thing, weren't they? Yeah, at that time, of course, since the 60s. They were a big thing in my family. I had a cousin in Birmingham had a Mini Cooper.
Yeah.
You know, it was
Yeah.
the most exotic thing I've
Oh,
ever
they're
seen.
fantastic. I bought
God.
one, a new Mini Cooper,
Wow.
in 1988, which bore no resemblance to a proper Mini Cooper, but it was just had his name written on the bonnet. But yeah, it was good fun.
Yeah.
Good fun to drive.
I had, well, my cousin, whose name I sadly forget. I'm going to say Keith. His name's Keith.
Let's call him
Yeah.
Keith.
No, his name was Keith. He really had the original Mini Cooper and British Racing Green.
Yeah, nice.
Loads of dials.
Yeah.
And it sounded brilliant and went like fucking shit off a stick,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And I remember sitting and that was the first time I've experienced actually being in a car and feeling, you know, that sort of excitement of
Sure.
it going
Yeah, yeah.
going fast, like a racing sort of feeling, you know.
Yeah.
And then after that, what happened? I mean, he, yeah, I don't know what happened. I mean, well, Keith died, but
Oh.
you know, had nothing to do with the Mini.
Oh, good.
But my other Mini story is that when my first job at the Wisbech Standard, the newspaper, they had company cars, you know, and they had a company Mini,
Okay.
and with a big sticker down the side that said Wisbech Standard. It was
That's somebody pretty proud to drive around.
It was brown. I think it would have been a 1,000 cc's, or
Yeah, which they
possibly,
were.
1,000 cc's. And again, it was a workhorse, but fuck me, that thing would go, you know.
Well,
So we-
there was nothing to them, was there?
yeah,
Yeah, a tiny little, about the size of this desk.
right.
Tiny little
Like a
thing.
go-kart.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So power weight ratio was always good.
Yeah, and I remember getting in there, when, like, you know, if you had to go out on a job, I remember getting in there and going, well, just being excited.
Yeah.
Being able to thrash the fuck out of a
Yeah.
company car, you know.
Yeah.
And this thing would go like the fucking clappers if you know, wanted it to. And I used to take it out to various jobs. And there was one day I had to go to a Samaritans meeting
Okay.
from Wisbech.
What? Because you had a Mini,
No, because
or because you worked for the
I worked for the
Standard?
Wisbech Standard, so we had to go out to sort of various
You had to see,
evening meetings like parish councils and that sort of stuff. So you'd take the car, you know, overnight. You know, you'd have the car overnight, right? So you'd get the car overnight. Oh, it's quite exciting, you know. And because it's not yours, you don't give a fuck about it, you know.
yeah.
So I remember going out to this. I had but I shouldn't say this. I don't know if I should say this, but anyway, before I left the house, I had this trick at the time where I used to put a small, like a very small amount of hashish onto the top of a pin, light it, and then put a glass over the top of it. Do you ever do that?
Yeah.
And then you sort of get it down to the edge, wouldn't you? Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
suck it up, you know. We might have to beep all that out, but, you know. So I'd had one of small one of those, just a small one. Then I went out and there was around Wisbeach, that area, and a lot of areas in England, there were always these bypasses, weren't they? You know, they built a lot of bypasses. You know, there was these enormously.
Don't go Wisbeach. We'll go by.
no. They're this enormously dangerous sort of, you know, gradual turning, empty double lane roads.
Yeah.
You know, where you could just speed your arse off because there was no cameras or anything like that.
No, exactly.
And they had these sort of deadly curvature on it, you know.
Yeah,
So anyway, there I am in the fucking Wisbeach Standard Mini going to the Samaritans meeting. I'm stoned. And I'm in there and I'm fucking thrashing the shit out of it. And I come up on this one of these kind of curves, and I come up and there's a fucking one of those, what are they fucking called? A marina.
What? Morris Marina.
Morris Marina.
Yeah.
Like a marina, you know. Or was it an Allegro? No, a Morris Marina. And it was there in the front, and it was standing still because I was going quite fast. You know, I was going pretty much as fast as this fucking thing would go, which is, you know, it would do 70 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So I am, and I'm thinking, right, I'm just going to take that cunt. And I go around, and as I pull out, right in front of me is this fucking Vauxhall Viva, you know, literally right in front of me. It's right there. I'm going to die.
Right.
And the only option I had was to fucking slam the Wisbeach Standard Mini into the Austin Allegro I was overtaking, running him into the fucking...
or Morris Marina. Whichever it was.
Running him into the fucking dike.
Yeah.
You know, I remember seeing him. Everything goes in slow motion.
Get everywhere.
Everything goes in slow motion when you're in an accident like that, you know.
Yeah.
So I remember smashing into his car, watching his car just sort of glide into the fucking dike on the side of the road, and then seeing this Vauxhall Viva or whatever smash the back end of my Mini and spin me down the middle of the road, you know, in this car. It was a fucking carnage, you know. So I finally spanned out the middle of the road. I came to rest in this fucking smouldering pile of burning tyres and, you know, dented metal going, oh, fuck.
But did you still have your pin with a bit of dope?
No, I'd done that at home, you know. I'd done that at home. So I'm sat there, and this Vauxhall Viva was like a travelling salesman, insurance salesman, or something, you know. So he's up the road, his car's fucked, and the Austin Allegro, his car's in the fucking ditch, you know. So I get out, and I'm standing by the side of the road, and my father, bizarrely, was going to the same Samaritan meeting, came past in his Saab.
So was he going to the Samaritan meeting because of you?
No.
Because he had you as a son?
No, but the stepmum was involved with the Saab.
Right, okay.
So he was taking her to the meeting. So he comes past in his Saab, you know. So it's just the most surreal. I'm stoned, right? I've nearly killed 3 or 4 people. It's not a great thing to admit, but don't do this at home, kids.
No.
And he's come past, and he's in insurance, my dad, at that point. You know, he's working at Prudential. And he stopped the car, and he's looked at the carnage, and there's the fucking steaming pile of Mini, and the bloke, the fucking dike, and the Vauxhall Viva sort of smashed up on the side of the road, and he's gone, "You all right?" And I'm going, "Yep." Because I wasn't injured. No one was injured, thankfully, really. Good. There were a couple of injuries, but I'll tell you about that in a minute. And he's gone, he's wound the window down, it's like on his Saab, like that. He's gone, "Admit nothing."
Right. And then zzz, window goes up.
Windows have gone up. He's gone off to the fucking Samaritans meeting. That's it. He's left me there. So I walk back. All I see is this young kid climbing out of the dike. You know, his car's in the fucking dike. He's climbing out of the dike. He's clearly fucking, you know, I mean, I've just run him off the road, you know. He's clearly he's very fucking angry.
Yeah.
He's very fucking angry. He wants to kill me, you know, and he's come at me like that. Yeah, like this sort of thing. And he's got his mother in the back seat of the car. Which
Who's now dead.
No, she wasn't dead. No, she wasn't dead. But she had a bit of a sort of whiplash,
Yeah.
you know. So the cops have arrived, you know. So someone's called the cops, and the cops have arrived, and the ambulance arrived, and you know, Mum's got to taken out, and put a neck brace, and he's fucking, you know, so like this. You fucking, and the Vauxhall Viva bloke, the salesman, he's all business. He's like, "Have you got insurance? Where's your insurance?"
Right.
You know, and that. I said, "Don't worry, I've got insurance," you know, like this sort of thing. And the cops there, and of course I was working on the paper, you know, I knew all the cops.
Yeah.
You know, so this guy, he gets out, and I knew him from the desk, you know, and he goes, "Bit of a mess, Nigel." And I go, "Yep." And he goes, "Everything okay? You been drinking?" I was like, "Nope." He said, "I think you better get in the back of the car." So he put me in the back of the cop car, the Rover 3500.
Yeah.
And he sits me there, and he's got his pad out, and he goes, "Right," he says, "Well, the woman over there, she's got a bit of whiplash, and the insurance salesman seems okay." He said, "The young boy's a bit annoyed." He says, "But as far as I see it, it's a knock for knock." I fucking loved him for that. It says a knock for knock. And for those that don't know, that means, you know, you just exchange insurance details and off you go, you know.
Yeah.
However, it wasn't to transpire that knock for knock was going to work. So I was, you know, picked up by another member of the Wisbech Standard staff. Mm-hmm. The haulage, you know, cars and trucks came to pull the thing out of the dike that I'd run into the fucking. I remember as I passed him, I had no option. You know, and just looking, it was like two Spitfire pilots looking across the cockpit. You know, and he looked terrified. I was like, "I'm so sorry, son. It's you and me." And then I eased him off the road. Anyway, poor cunt. So anyway, I sort of survived. I got back to the office, you know, and I explained this to the news editor. That's what happened. You know, it was a bit of. He said, "Well, you better sit down there and write the report for the Friday paper,
Right?
Because we would have to write reports. You know, for each accident on the bypass, the A47."
And you were a writer.
And I was a writer. I was a reporter, so I had to sit down there and go. There was a 3-car collision on the A47 that sort of, you know.
Oh, and by the way, I was it.
And it was the Wisbech Standard reporter Nigel Simmons and all this sort of thing. So I wrote this story, okay, and they were all pretty cool about it. No one was dead. It was okay. No, I'm seriously injured. Didn't mention the fact that I've been smoking dope, obviously, and it went in the paper. So when the paper came out on a Friday, and I'd been exchanging details with the other people involved in the accident, my insurance details, etc., etc., and I got a letter through the post, and it was from the young boy who'd been writing that, you know, driving that to Austin Allegro.
Yeah.
So I'd run into the dike, and he'd sent me this letter, and in it was a clipping from the Wisbech Standard of my story, which he didn't know I'd written.
Wow.
And he sent it to me as evidence, he said. "Look, it's been in the paper. It must be true. It must be true. It's your fault." And I was like, "You
Brilliant.
fuck it." Anyway,
Brilliant.
So I apologise for running you into the dike. I do.
All those years ago.
All those years ago, and I hope you're well. And you won't be watching this because I never really did know your name. So anyway, I feel like I've been going on a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So, what else is there to talk about?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
First, well, we were talking about first, weren't we?
Well, there's always that story about the first time that Big George climbed up the hill
Yeah, we ain't got time for that now.
in Appleby Fair,
We ain't got time for that.
fighting the pikeys
Yeah.
one by one
Well, that needs a whole episode on its own.
until he got to the top.
Yeah.
And beat up the top pikey.
Yeah.
And then had to run away, and they blew his balls off. But we haven't got time.
No,
for
we
that
haven't.
now,
We haven't.
because I've used up all the time this week. Ian, it's been thank you for listening to me this week. That's
No, it's good.
Pretty much
It's been
it.
fun.
Yeah,
It's been fun.
I love you, man.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.